Good morning and welcome to Norcal APEX Accelerator's introductory webinar, How to Do Business with the Government. My name is Amanda Anderson. I'm the program coordinator for Norcal APEX Accelerator, and I'm joined today by our awesome procurement specialist, Thomas Burns. But before I pass it off to Thomas for the main meat and potatoes of this presentation, I do want to let you all know a little bit about APEX Accelerator and how we can help you with government contracting. So the APEX Accelerator program is a federally mandated program that sets up a network of APEX Accelerator centers across the US. In Alaska, Hawaii, Florida to Washington, there is an APEX Accelerator near you. And those APEX Accelerator centers are where you can get absolutely free government contracting assistance. Let me repeat that. They will never ask for any kind of payment from you for any assistance that we give. It's part of our funding and part of our agreement with the government that we are to offer all of our assistance to businesses just like you, no matter how big or how small, to help you be successful in government contracting. Because the government really does want to do business with you. There's just quite a bit of paperwork and quite a bit of hurdles, but that's what we're here to help with. And how do we help with that? Well, at Norcal APEX Accelerator, we help our Northern California counties through three main pillars of assistance. First off, we offer one-on-one counseling through Zoom. So no matter where you are within these Northern California coastal counties, you can meet with a procurement specialist. Maybe it's Thomas Burns, maybe it's one of our other fantastic specialists, and they'll sit down with you one-on-one to help you figure out and move past any hurdles or hiccups you may be experiencing with government contracting. Whether that's Sam being a little fickle with getting you your UEI, or maybe you want help reviewing a bid for a solicitation that you're going to be submitting. We can do anything and everything related to government contracting, and we can do all of that for you specifically through our one-on-one counseling. Another benefit of being a APEX Accelerator client is our custom bid matching program. Now, this is a program that we pay for and offer to all of our clients for absolutely no cost. And what this does is it scrapes and searches all local, state, and federal procurement sites for opportunities that are directly relevant to you. Now, how do they know they're relevant to you? Well, when you sit down for your one-on-one counseling, your counselor will help you create a profile with keywords, locations you want to perform your work in, products and services that you are able to offer to government agencies. And once that profile is set up, this custom bid matching program will scour all those sites based on that criteria and send you exactly what you're looking for. And our third resource for you, our third government contracting assistance pillar, is one you're actually taking advantage of right now, all of our resources and trainings. We put on webinars just like this one throughout the entire year, and we go as far as how do you set up your capabilities statement, which is a very common question, to what are the fine details of doing business with NASA or getting a GSA schedule. So from the very beginner who's just looking into government contracting to someone who is ready to bid, earn, and perform on contracts, our trainings and webinars cover everything in between. But if we are a little bit short on trainings, maybe you can't make a couple of them, we have a very robust website to complement that. So our website has a ton of resources, including local agency contracting pages where you can go search for those opportunities yourself, to information about state and federal certifications that can make you a little bit more competitive when you're bidding. And the best part about this pillar is you don't even have to be in our service area or signed up as a client with us. You can access and attend any of our webinars, any of our trainings, and anything on our website from wherever you are. So if you would like to take advantage of the first two pillars, so if you want to get in with one-on-one counseling, want to get that custom bid match set up, please do sign up for APEX Accelerator services. If you're within Northern California, you can sign up with us directly. But if not, do not worry. Like I said, the APEX Accelerator program is a nationwide network. We have over 96 centers, and there's absolutely one near you that you can connect with to get this assistance. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Thomas Burns.
Good morning, everybody. Amanda, can everybody hear me? Okay, excellent, excellent. Hey, good morning. Thank you very much for coming and attending this webinar. I really enjoyed this webinar. I believe it's a great opportunity for any company or individual who's really looking at the opportunities that can present themselves within the government contracting space. And this is your first introduction to the breadth of it and what's required. I think we do a pretty good job of giving you a really good overview with enough details to take you to the next level. So we're going to first talk about just what exactly is government contracting, and then we'll flow into how to determine if selling is right for you for the government, right? Based on what your products and services are, how do you determine if this is even right for you? And then if you say, yes, this is right for me, okay, well, how do I get started? And a big thing is marketing, right? The government's not going to be finding you. They're not going to be reaching out to you. You've got to be reaching out to them. So how do you do that? How do you market to the government? And then where to find bid opportunities. Amanda mentioned one of our cool tools, the custom bid match, but there are so many other ways to find bid opportunities that we're going to talk about, and then those steps to success. So let's jump right in because this is quite a bit we're going to cover. All right, so what exactly is government contracting? I'm going to jump to the next slide to kind of give you a quick little overview. All right, so historically, you know, the government needs businesses to provide them with almost all of the different services and products that the government is doing on the behalf of its own citizens, whether we're talking about a city, a county, a transportation district, or a school district, or of course the federal government and, you know, like state of California or any state. They're mandated to provide us, the taxpayers, with a lot of different services and products. But the government, in many situations, doesn't really hire individuals to do the work directly. What they do is they contract that work out. And so on the left side, as you can see, these are the most common sectors where our tax dollars are being utilized and when it comes to government contracting. Public works, of course, is everything related to building something, whether it's a bridge, a road, you name it. A&E just means architecture and engineering. And then professional services, see, it's one of the second ones because this is such a huge category that it covers so many different things. Everything from advertising and marketing, trainings, coaching. It's just a huge swath of different services that the government will hire companies and individuals to do work either for the government or for the citizens that they're working with. Of course, also office supplies and janitorial and everything else. And on the right side, what you're looking at are those products and services that, for the most part, you know, there's always some exception to the rule, but for the most part, the government's not going to be purchasing luxury items. or clothing retailers because they don't buy at a retail cost. It always has to be wholesale, trying to get the best value for our tax dollars. Restaurants is here. However, if a restaurant has a catering side, the government actually does quite a bit of work with catering firms, depending on the services and the needs of what's going on. All right, so this is pretty standard, but gives you a good understanding of what they purchase versus what they don't. So let's go into an example that can really help you see this. This is Pelican Bay is one of many different state prisons here in California. And this is just an example of the length of the things that they purchase, whether it's on a monthly basis or some kind of annual basis, depending on what it is. So if you see yourself in terms of your products or services anywhere on this list, then yes, your products or services are ideal for the government. I don't think there's any questions, so if not, I'll move on to the next slide. But I like the slide because it really helps you to understand, some of the different varieties of products, but really services that the government needs to purchase to get the job done. And this one is here because if you're very new to government contracting, you may not be familiar with the term prime and sub. What is a prime contractor versus what is a subcontractor? So when the government needs to do a large project, and a quick example would be a bridge, right? It's a city or a county or a state, they need to build a bridge or repair a bridge. They're going to put out a solicitation, and they're going to have just one company, one prime contractor who's going to be awarded that contract. Let's say that contract is worth $25 million, right? The government, though, will mandate that the prime sub out some of that work, and they'll do like a percentage. Let's say they do 20% of that $25 million contract. So you're looking at around $5 million that they have to be spending with smaller businesses to do some portion of that work related to building that bridge. It could be hiring a trucking firm to deliver the gravel and the wood, whatever. Or it could be another firm that's responsible for doing the architecture or creating the plans for the bridge. So they being the prime has the responsibility of finding small businesses to sub out that work. Now here on the example, you see 4 subs, but this could be as many or as few as they want. I've personally seen situations where a prime has been awarded a contract for 25, 30 million, and they end up working with just one small business, that one sub, and they spend 5, 10 million with that one sub. But typically they will work with more than one sub to do a variety of different projects. And so that's the relationship between the prime and the sub. And it's a great opportunity for small businesses to start to break into government contracting by working with a prime. Amanda, were there any questions that related to this slide or something I just spoke about?
Yeah, we did have a question. If you could go a little bit more into professional services. Someone asked if there's a defined list of those subcategories, but if you could throw out maybe some examples. I know
Yeah,
moving
I
services
don't
is
know if there's a
one.
quote list, but
Yeah.
um, I can think about some of my clients.
Yeah.
So I mentioned marketing, advertising. There are professional services related to what's called community outreach, business development, leadership training. That's a big one. The government agencies want to make sure their managers are properly trained, right, to manage their teams. And so, especially in the military, but in all agencies, they do a lot of work with companies that provide leadership training, software training. That's a service. It's IT, but it's actually a service. It's a professional service providing, if they have to update their software and they need to train those individuals who are going to be working those programs, that's also part of professional services. So I can't think of of an extensive list, but depending on what you do, if it's related to helping, if it's a service that a company would hire, more than likely the government would also be in a position to hire. So if you can look at it that way, if it's a service that a regular other company would be needing, then more than likely the government would also need that service.
Perfect. Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah. Okay. So to me, this is one of the more important slides here, the recipe for success. And it really is that you can go into government contracting and wing it, and you might have some success. But if you really want to be successful, if you really want to take government contracting seriously, then these are all, in my opinion, my professional opinion, mandatory. Having an established business. And what does that mean? I would say anywhere from 6 months to a year, you've been operating, you've been in business and been operating, and you have a history of sales already. Ideally, that history of sales is selling to another company, right? Now, if you're selling retail, then that's typically not what would be considered a history of sales to that the government would see as positive. But if you're selling to another company, it doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 firm. But if you're making sales to another company, that's at least some history of sales. The next one is also really critical. Having a business plan that includes government contracting, right? Because when you do that, you're going to be doing the marketing research to figure out how to create this business plan for government contracting. And the reason it's so critical is because when you just say government contracting, that's such a huge statement. We're talking the entire federal government, all of the states in the United States. We're talking all of the cities, all of the counties, all of the school districts throughout the United States, universities, and transportation agencies. Now, ideally, you want to pick, where should I focus my energy? Should my energy be focused on school districts, or should I be trying to do business with military bases throughout the United States? How do you make that decision? Research, market research, depending on your product or service, depending on your financial stability, depending on your past performance, and of course, are you able to, or have you created a website? And does your website allow for or show that you're excited and interested in marketing to the government? You know, and have you picked out which government you really want to market to? If you can do these things first before you actually go after government contracting opportunities, you're creating that recipe for success initially. A quick example, let's say you are in the professional services, leadership training, and you get an opportunity to provide training for a 12-month period with some Army base, and they have 90 individuals that's going to be part of your class. You're going to be doing this on once a month or maybe a weekend thing, whatever, right? You have to provide the service, then invoice them, and wait anywhere from 30, 60, up to 90 days to receive payment. Now, a lot of firms looking at government contracting may not be in a financial position to do that, especially if you have to, that requires you to actually hire people or buy supplies to do the work that you need to do. So making sure you have that up front is just it's really critical, right? It's really critical to understand the work involved to get ready to do business with the government, because it's very different than if you were working and doing business with other companies, or especially in the retail market. Any questions related to this slide or something I just mentioned?
Yeah, we actually had a question about James was asking if they need to be 100% knowledgeable to be hired by a prime, like a prime
Well,
contractor.
I would say it this way. There's always going to be competition in any space you're trying to do business with, right? So if you are a sub that is, and let's use construction, even though it could be anything, but let's just use construction, and you do painting. You're a painter and you have a small crew, and you approach a prime who has won a contract, or they're bidding on a contract that's going to require painting as part of it. Who are they going to choose? They're going to choose that firm that's got past performance. They're going to choose a firm that they have some kind of knowledge about, some kind of relationship with. They're typically not going to choose a firm that they've never heard of, right? If you approach them on Monday and they're going to be making a decision on Friday and they've never heard of you, but they have 4, 5, 6 other companies that they've been talking to or building a relationship for months in the past, more than likely you're not going to win that opportunity. So I'm not going to say, knowledgeable 100%, but yes, they want to know you're a professional. They want to know, can you get the job done? And being able to prove that to them is key.
Perfect. And we did have another question from Jamal. He's wondering how history of sales is confirmed and validated.
Well, most of the time, they don't really validate it, meaning they don't really do a lot of upfront work to prove your statements of history of sales. A lot of times, take your word for it, but it depends on the agency and what services you're trying to, what are your products or services. If it's just you're selling products, right? Tires, vending machines, you're selling a product. A lot of times they just want to know, okay, well, who have you been selling your products to? They may not do a lengthy quote background check into that to confirm it. But if you're in the services area and leadership development, as an example again, they probably will want to see, okay, so have you provided these services, and how well were those services received by your list of historical clients? So it's a 50-50 thing. Yes, they can definitely check. Do they do it quite a bit? Really depends on the product or service and the size of the contract. If the contract's just for a few $1,000s, more than likely no. If it's a much larger contract with a lot on the line, then yes, they can definitely check your references.
Perfect. And that's all we have for now.
Okay. All right. So you've decided, yes, definitely you want to get moving with government contracting. You've done some of those steps that I just outlined in Recipe for Success. So one of the first steps we really recommend is signing up for services with an APEX Accelerator based on where you're located, and you saw the map, and you're going to be having access to all of these the slide deck, so you can easily find the APEX Accelerator within your territory. Identifying your target agencies. I mentioned that just previously. There's so many different areas when you talk about government contracting. You have to narrow it down. Unless you have a marketing staff of 20, 30 people, and you're able to, do business with this federal agency and that federal agency and these 5 different states and stuff like that, you just have to pick. and it's picking and choosing a target audience is actually beneficial to you, the most primarily small business owners who are looking to do business with the government. Now it's NEXT codes and UNSPSC codes. If these are new acronyms to you, the NEXT is North American Industry Classification System, I believe, NAICS, and it rhymes with cake, so it's NAICS codes. And it's a way that the US government put together a numbering system to help identify industries, products, and services. It is a wonderful tool that allows them to identify. So it's an easy way to say, okay, 54121 might reference landscapers versus 54125 might reference janitorial firms. So it's an easy way to identify a class of industry or product or service. And the UNSPSC codes are the same thing, but they're universal from the United Nations. So different countries throughout the United States, throughout the world, recognize UNSPSC codes. California, being California, they don't, the state of California, not meaning all the cities and counties, but just California state, when they are creating their industry classifications, they utilized UNSPSC codes versus NAICS codes. That's why this is here, because a lot of our clients want to do business with California, right, with the state of California. And so utilizing and understanding their UNSPSC codes is important. By the way, if you want to do business with the state of California, then that link, caleprocure.gov, is the California marketplace. It's where you would go to sign up to become a vendor. And then if you qualify, you want to sign up to be certified as a small business or as a what they call a DVBE, which just stands for Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise. I'll get more into certifications further along. If you want to do business with the federal government, again, you must register in SAM. You must get a UEI and a CAGE code. Once you have those things, the next step is to also go into what's called the Dynamic Small Business Search or database. This is a database that federal agencies and specifically the contracting officers and small business specialists that work within the federal government, they utilize that database to find businesses to do business with. So having your capability narrative, more keywords, and putting your past performance and even references within that database gives you greater opportunity to be seen by federal contracting officers and small business specialists. And then another reason this is on here, because it's extremely important, your capability statement. I'm going to go more into that later on in here, but it's a really important document that all businesses that are looking to do business with any government, you must have a capability statement. And we also feel like you must also have a website, but also within that website, you devote at least one page that is government friendly. Any questions about how to get started, or should I move forward?
Yeah, we did have a clarifying question about what financially ready really means. Jane was wondering, and I'll just read the question because it gives a little bit more detail. So financially ready entails having funding to hire a prime for product, paying them up front after the bid is accepted, or like, how does that work? How would you know that you are financially ready?
Okay, well, based on your products or services, right? Based on what you're selling to the government, that's the starting point. And that could be as simple as selling tools. You're selling tools to the government and they buy in smaller quantities. So you might, of course, you're going to have to purchase those tools and have them ready up front. The main point is whatever financial stability really means, you have to do the work up front first. And then you invoice the government and wait for payment, regardless if it's products you're selling them or services. If the government gives you a contract for, I don't know, 1,000 pounds of fertilizer, right? You have to supply them with that fertilizer, meaning you have to ship it to them or deliver it to them, and then you invoice them and wait for payment. So that is what we're talking about. Are you financially able to do the work and then wait to get paid? Sometimes that work involves hiring people to do the work. Other times it might be just if you're a solo entrepreneur and you can do the work yourself, great. You just have to wait to get paid.
Perfect. And then we did have one other question. Safina is wondering if government contracting work requires bonding.
Yes, it does if the contract requires it. This is traditionally seen within construction, but it can apply to other areas of services that the government may require, or even products that they want to purchase. Bonding is a method of allowing the government to have some assurance that you're going to provide the services or products that you've agreed to within a contract. So if the government says they are hiring you to supply them with $200,000 worth of painting services, and you're going to be doing this from January all the way to June, a bond allows the government to have some assurance that if you default, if you stop working in March, then the bond's going to pay the government, because now they have to go out and hire another company to do this work. And so if you're unable to get bonded, then that could stop you from having access to government contracting. If you can get bonded, great. At what level? And a bond is, they treat a bond just like if you were going out to get a loan, right? Can you get a loan? Do you have collateral? Do you have the necessary, what's the best way to say it? But do you have the necessary capability to be insured, get a loan? That's all related to getting a bond.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah.
And that's it for the questions for now. And just as a little side note, we'll be doing a Women's in Construction Week series in March that'll go much further into bonding and that whole process. So do keep an eye out for our further events.
Yeah, that's that's not my core expertise, but I'm very familiar with that process and the challenges that it can present to certain small businesses.
Absolutely.
All right, so I mentioned certification, so I'm going to spend some time to really go over, because I think it's an area that a lot of misunderstanding takes place. A lot of my clients, when we have our first conversation, their first thing is, I signed up because I need to get certified so I can go after contracts. And I said, that's great, but you understand you don't really need to be certified. It's an advantage to get a certification. It's an opportunity to put yourself above certain competitors who maybe aren't certified or can't get certified. But it's not a deterrent where if you aren't certified, you cannot do business with the government. That's simply not the case. There are plenty of firms that win contracts who are not certified. However, it is an advantage, and it's something you should get if you can qualify. So here in the state of California, we basically have the 3 certificates: small business, and then small business for public works, which again is in the construction. So there are certain criteria to be certified as a small business to do business with the state of California. One quick one is, of course, your business has to be located here in California, right? If your business is located in New York, but you want to do business in California, you're not going to be able to get a certification. There's also requirements based on the amount of revenue your business is producing per year. If it's above their criteria, then of course you can't be certified as a small business. And then the other one is the disabled veteran business enterprise. You have to be able to prove that you have some disability as a individual who was in the military. And that usually means you have your, I can't think of the name real quick, even though I got one, but it's your letter showing your level of disability. It's like a 10% all the way up to 100%. And so having that, and of course your DD 214, being able to submit those things, you can get certified as a disabled veteran business enterprise. Now, the quick question is, so what does this mean? What does it give me to be certified? So in the state of California's case, they have a mandate. They want to make sure that a certain percentage of all of the work that they pay for, whether it's products or services, that certified small businesses receive a significant portion for, and I'm not remembering exactly, but I think it's like 20 to 25% of their total spending budget has to go to small businesses because that's a huge category. And then I believe 3 to 5% goes to disabled veteran business enterprises because that's a smaller, much smaller list of, businesses that are certified. And that same system is with the federal government. They just have more categories. So the first one is the Small Disadvantaged Business, or SDB. Another way of looking at that is what's called a total small business. And for the most part, you qualify based on the size of your business in relation to NEX codes again, because remember I talked about NEX codes. So a quick example would be, I'll go with plumbing again, or painting. A small business would be a company that has less than, let's say, 100 employees and makes less than 30 million a year in their business within that next code of painting. If you make less than 30 million and you have less than 100 employees, then you are considered a small business in the painting next code. That's just a quick random example, but that's how it works. And then, of course, you have women-owned small business, veteran-owned. They also have VO, which is just being a veteran, and then SD, which is a service-disabled veteran. Historically utilized business zones or hub zones. That one is based on geography. Where is your business located? If your business is located in what is considered a hub zone, then you are eligible for this certification, which gives you the opportunity to, again, win contracts that have been designated specifically for hub zone firms or VOSB firms or WOSB firms. And then one of the bigger programs is the 8A. The 8A represents minorities of all classes. And so that is the traditional certification that is utilized for minority firms throughout the United States. Any questions on, I know it's a quick overview again. I'm not going to be able to do a deep dive on every single one of these, but we have webinars that we have done on each one of these in our database on our website. So if you're looking to know more about the Women-Owned Small Business Program and how to get certified, go to our website and we've got a webinar that talks about that. Any questions related to this, Amanda?
Yeah, we had a couple come in.
I figured.
Yeah, certifications are always a hot button topic.
Yeah.
Safina's wondering, a prerequisite for small business certification is being based in California. But if you're an out-of-state business with a California office, are you still eligible?
If your business headquarters is in California, you qualify. That's what you've met one of the qualifications to be certified as a small business in California. So if your headquarters is in California, then the answer is yes.
Perfect.
That was it?
There's a couple more.
Oh, okay.
Jeshri was wondering if you can elaborate on the 8A certification program.
Well, I really don't. It would be. Um, I really think there's like many different slides or webinars that we've done on the 8A program. But I'll say it this way: it is a 9-year program, which is different than the other certifications, which isn't really a program. So the 8A is unique in that once you have qualified, the SBA, Small Business Administration, will give you a case manager. And that case manager's job is to take you from being a small business to actually, at the end of the 9 years, the goal is for you to graduate as a prime, as a large firm. So in that 9-year period, their goal is to bring you so much business that you basically graduate out of it and you're no longer a small business. That is the vision of the program. That's the goal. Does that happen every single time? I don't know, but I'm sure there are many firms that reach that level. And I'm sure there are firms that don't reach that level, but they definitely helps grow their business.
Perfect.
But again, it's a program, whereas everything else you see here are just certifications that last anywhere from 1 year to 3 years, and you have to just renew it by putting in an application again.
Fantastic. And for everyone in the audience, I'll go ahead and drop a link to our certification webinars. So there's the veteran certifications, women-owned certifications that you can all check out after this event, and I'll drop that in chat.
Okay. One of my favorite subjects, local contracting. And no matter where you are listening to me, whether you're, again, New York to anywhere in California, local contracting is, in my opinion, a way to not only break in, but it's a way to really be successful in government contracting. It really is. Um, the federal government is the federal government, and yes, they have the biggest budget. They spend the most amount of money in the world. All of that's true, but you can build great relationships with contracting officers and decision makers in your own community and have success contracting month after month after month. So where are you located? What city are you based in? What county are you based in? How many school districts are within a 20, 30-mile radius of where your business is located? Are there any transportation agencies within this same 20, 30, 40-mile radius? Here in Northern California, we have 32 transportation agencies, I believe. And all of them have budgets that require them to buy everything, just like a city or county. Same with school districts. Their budget might not be as big, of course, but depending on the school district, whether they have just 2 schools or 50 schools, there is a huge amount of opportunity in construction, professional services, uh, different products that they need, everything from the office supplies to books to on and on and on. And a little bit of research up front will help you figure out where these opportunities based on what you sell lie. And I'm an advocate of putting really a lot of energy into local contracting within your own community. a good example here in the Bay Area is, I'll just pick on San Mateo County, right? San Mateo County is a relatively small county in terms of the territory, but that includes, just off the top of my head, Daly City, Burlingame, Millbrae, San Mateo, Redwood City, and I believe one or two others. And each one of those cities, have their own budgets. And so if you could be successful locally, you may not need to go outside of that community to stay busy in your company, depending on what your product or service is. Another thing, local, they also have what's called an LBE certification. This does not apply to the really small cities and counties, but by and large, most larger cities and counties have their own local business preference. They put a preference on those businesses that are based in their community. And that preference could be anywhere from they do set aside contracts for local businesses to helping them with bidding on or becoming a sub to large primes. So there's different ways how they help those LBE firms. And each one is a little different. So that's why I didn't go into great detail on exactly what do you get when you're certified as an LBE, because it depends on that city or county. They have different programs. And so you would want to check out what programs are available under this certification in your own community. And I want to quickly see, you see that link, Norcal Local Agency Procurement Sites. It's one of the sites or one of the things that I do almost with all of my clients. We go to norcalptac.org, we go to local contracting, and we already have a list of all of these local counties, cities, and transportation agencies that goes directly to their doing business with us page. See, we're getting close on time, so I'm going to quickly go to the next slide. This is what I talked about before, the importance of a capability statement. This is the overview of the information that you would want to put on this one-page document. Sometimes, depending on the amount of information you have, you could do one page back-to-back, so 2 pages, but ideally, you want a one-page document. That link will take you to our instructional page on how to write a capability statement. And then here, we also have a free template and again, instructions. So utilize the information that we offer you within this webinar and on our website to really help you create your capability statement. And also, as Amanda mentioned earlier, it's one of the things that we spend a lot of time with on our one-on-one sessions, helping our clients create a really good professional capability statement. I see we have a few questions. I thought I'd take a quick minute to answer some.
Absolutely. Bob was asking if there's a similar search for California and other states where you can search like Sam the way you would search NICS codes. Sorry,
So,
I asked that really poorly.
no, I think I understand what you're talking about.
Okay,
So
perfect.
California, just like Sam, California has a great tool at their Cali Procure where you can look up past performances. You can look up UNSPSC codes in terms of the most popular, or not really all of them, but definitely the most popular ones, right? So yes, the answer is yes. And I haven't checked out other states. I don't know how Texas and Utah and Florida handle their list of past performances and next codes and UNSPSC codes, but I know California does a really great job.
Absolutely. And as a note in little promo, we're actually going to have California DGS join us next month. And
Oh,
they
good.
often go over how to find opportunities and how to search in Cali eProcure. So that might be a really good one for you, Bob. Fantastic. And I've been answering a ton of questions in the back end just to consolidate things.
Okay.
Um,
Keep going, or
so
another question I should
we
answer?
have one more question. I'll get to the rest of them. Joshua was wondering if they can add more NICS codes after certification.
Oh, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. So you of course, if you want to, let's say you change up. I've been using the painting firm as an example, but then a year later or 2 years later they want to do drywall, or you will go out and get your contractor's license to be a general contractor, and there's all these different services or different things that you offer. You are of course free to add as many next codes as you want. It's completely up to you.
Perfect.
Okay, so contracting ready websites. Yes, we believe, based on our understanding and the competition that you face in this world, having a website is a must. And then having a website where there's at least one tab that is government friendly is also extremely important. And this is the kind of information that you would put on that government tab page, the capability statement, and they can download it, all of your registrations or certifications. That also means, let's say you are in the tech or you're in the construction and you have ISO 9000, or you have certain cybersecurity clearances, things like that, or you have certain degrees that you want to highlight. All of that information should be within this government tab space. This also gives you a great chance to talk about your past history, projects you've been working on, and of course, you want to make it easy to navigate. And the reason this is important is because your competitors are doing this, and contracting officers are just people, and they can be influenced by a great looking website with a lot of information. So you got to compete. Here's one quick example. How they have a government contracts tab, and then within that, they quickly utilize this easy function of letting them know who they are, some of their current and previous contracts, and then if I scroll down, you'd see a lot more information. And then see, so they've also added a link so they can download their capability statement. Another example of another firm. Now, this firm is clearly into the federal government. So they're showing all of the different business they've done with the federal government, and they are also a GSA contract holder. Um, if you're not familiar with that term, don't worry about it. It's just another way to do business with the federal government, with the listing of their next codes and what those next codes mean. Okay. I know we're running on time, but I'm going to spend some time talking about how to market, excuse me, to the federal government. Again, I had mentioned before, developing a marketing plan is really critical, because the government, when you talk about government, it's such a huge space. You've got to narrowly focus your energy. Who do you really want to do business with? And so that's what we're talking about, narrowing your focus so that you can market, have a better chance of marketing, because we don't have an unlimited budget. Building relationships, again, you're not going to be able to just build relationships with every single agency out there. So you got to pick and choose. Who should I spend time to build relationships with? And then how? Attending expos, matchmaker events, which they have plenty of them, depending on who you want to do business with. Cities, counties, state agencies, they all have these matchmaking events, these expos. You just have to do the research to find out when they're going to be taking place, or conferences. Participating in training, in the state of California, as an example, they have a lot on their DGS site and Cali Procure site. They do a lot of webinars. They have phone networking events. They have Zoom networking events, and of course, they have face-to-face networking events. I love LinkedIn. when it comes to the government space, whether we're talking primes, these large companies that do business with the government or the government itself, you can find decision makers, contracting officers, managers within LinkedIn on those government pages in LinkedIn. By and large, almost every agency has a LinkedIn profile now. Okay, small business representatives. This is a title of an individual whose job is to be the middleman between the contracting officers and the small businesses that want to do business with that agency. Quick example. I'll utilize the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. They have a small business representative. The job of that small business representative or advocate is to help the contracting officer make sure that they're meeting their participation goals or their spending goals to do business with small businesses. So if the DMV has a budget of $100 million and the goal is to spend 20% or 20 million with small businesses in California, the small business representative's job is to help the contracting officers find small businesses to do business with. And so your job is to connect with the small business representative who can help you connect with the contracting officers. That's an overview of how that works in a quick nutshell. And then again, I already mentioned the dynamic small business search. That's for the federal government. And we talked about where to find these bid opportunities. So on our own website, Norcal PTAC, I've mentioned we already have that local contracting, and it's a link that goes directly to the procurement pages of all of the different local agencies here in Northern California. If you want to do business with certain primes and you know who you want to do business with, whatever that prime is, go to their website, and more than likely, they have a how to do business with us page. For California, if you want to do business with the state of California, Cali Procure. If you want to do business with the federal government, that's the sam.gov, and then you click on contracting opportunities, and then you would put a keyword in. And that keyword could be whatever you're trying to do, janitorial, painting, construction, and you'll see the list. Sometimes it could be just a few, sometimes it could be a few thousand, depending on the time of the year and when you do your search. Now, acquisition.gov is a unique site. It's managed and, sponsored by the federal government, and it allows you to get what's called a procurement forecast on any federal agency in terms of what they're going to be buying in, now that we're going into 2024, in, let's say, the third, fourth quarter of 2024 and in 2025. So if you want to know what they plan to purchase in the future, the near future, acquisition.gov can give you those answers on the federal side, right? It's not going to talk about cities and counties and local stuff, but on the federal side. But on the local side, especially when you talk about contracting, associations like building exchanges help you find bid opportunities. And of course, our bid match service, which will, we've talked about that a couple times. So let's see. Before I go into the summary, where I'm going to ask whether more questions that I need to provide some answers to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually wanted to hop in and let everybody know we are at the top of the hour. And if you do have to go, thank you so much for being here today. And if you do have to leave, you can't stay a little bit late with us, that's absolutely fine. We are still recording, and you will still receive this recording as well as any details you may miss in this next 5-10 minutes. So not to worry if you do have to hop off. And thank you so much for being here. And on to all of these great questions.
Wonderful.
So we have a question. They sell snacks and beverages to the military exchange and commissary and are wondering how to get into state and local contracting for this.
Okay, so you already have past performance selling to the federal government, and now you want to break into states, cities, and counties. Again, you go to their doing business with us page on their websites. They all have them, whether it's Cali Procure and utilizing, instead of the next codes, you're going to find your UNSPSC codes for vending machines or for snack food. There is a code there. Once you find that code, you can find the agencies that has been buying products and services or vending machines and snack food based on that code within their past purchases. And that's your starting point for marketing. And that same system can be utilized with cities, counties, universities. Um, Again, going to their website, figuring out how to do business with them, and then doing some research to find out what agencies within that you're talking about, whether it's a university or the state, has been purchasing your products already.
Fantastic. And we had another question from Jashri. They were wondering, how do you really start making those connections? How do you start getting your business name in front of the people you want to do business with?
So we talked about the importance of the capability statement. Once you have a professional capability statement, then you're going to reach out utilizing email. So I also mentioned LinkedIn, but if you go to an agency's website, as an example, and you're able to find a contracting officer or the small business specialist, you reach out via email and phone, and you include your capability statement, and you start with questions, right? You want to start with questions if you don't see any solicitations. You start with questions to get information, and that's the starting point for building a relationship. I know it's an overview answer, but depending on where you want to focus your attention, you will be able to find decision makers on any agency's website. It really is that simple. It's just digging and doing a little bit of research. Or again, when you sign up for services, whether it's our Apex Accelerator or anyone, we have the ability to, on our one-on-one sessions, to show you how to do this or take you there. If you want to do business with the federal government, sam.gov, and you click on contracting opportunities and you see these solicitations, there is always a contracting officer listed with their name, number, and email address connected to them. You can just start there.
Absolutely. And like Thomas said, counselor can help you figure all of this out specifically for you and can even debrief with you after communicating with these points of contacts and kind of offer guidance that really you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. Marketing initially, when you're doing this, getting started, it really is about asking the right questions, right? Think about what kind of questions is going to get you to the next level. What information do you really need to know to do business with that agency?
Fantastic. And then we did have a question about the DBE program, which is a little in depth. But they're asking, will you be required to perform the work before receiving the appropriate NICS codes? And I think there might be some confusion about how you get your NICS codes.
Yeah, the next codes are you picking out your next code. What product or service do you do? There's a next code connected to that, right? It's just a way to identify products, services, and industries. That's what next codes and UNSPSC codes are utilized for. Excuse me. So it's nothing that you're given. There's a list. Amanda, are you able to put in a link that just, because it's a Google search, basically just next codes, right?
Absolutely.
And then once you're there, you can put in your keyword for what are your product, service, or industry, and it'll give you a list of next codes that are either exactly or similar to, and then you pick your own, what are your next codes based on your services, products, or industry.
Absolutely. And then one last question. We are going quite over time. It was a question in chat that I really liked. Elizabeth was seeing that some bids stay open on these sites even after the end date is passed. Are they still open for bidding, or have they just not been pulled down?
I wouldn't be able to give you a definitive answer because it could be a mistake. It could be the system that they utilize. So I'm really not sure. The only way to know is to actually call the agency. You know, if it's still there and the due date has passed, 6 weeks or 2 weeks or 9 months, what's going on? Ask the question. Yeah, I couldn't give you a definitive answer because that's such a broad question. Is it the federal government? Is it city, county? So,
Yeah. So maybe connecting with a counselor to point these out as they come up, be like, should I still work on this? That might be a good point for figuring that out.
and again, reaching out directly. I mean, let me say it this way. The government is utilizing our tax dollars. They're not this agency or department that you cannot reach. You are more than welcome to talk to the government and talk to contracting officers or the small business specialist. Remember, their job is to help you reach them. And their job is also to make sure that their agency is doing business with small businesses on us to reaching their participation goals, right? And so, yeah, feel comfortable reaching out, calling and emailing contracting officers or managers within an agency if you have questions.
Fantastic.
Okay, so let's go over this really quickly. 10 steps to succeed, right? Again, we talked about this. You want to do the research up front first. Don't just jump into it and not be prepared. Getting prepared, applying for services. We have this checklist of getting started. Go through that. Make sure you're ready. Getting certified is important, but again, don't let that stop you from moving forward. Right? You don't have to be certified and then start looking for opportunities. As you're going through the certification process, you're also looking for opportunities. At the same time, you're also getting your capability statement completed. And at the same time, you're doing your website, you're updating it. So you have multiple things happening at the same time instead of looking at this as, okay, do this, then do this, then do this. You can do all these at the same time. And once you're ready and once you're building relationships, right? Once you have your website up and your capability statement and you're making phone calls and talking to contracting officers based on the fact that you've done the research to identify where you want to do business, where you think you have the best chance, whether it's a university or a large agency in the state of California, or you want to do business with the U.S. Navy. Whatever that is, start building relationships with that agency. Kind of narrow your focus. And as you do that, you will be receiving bid opportunities or you'll be exposed to bid opportunities. You'll learn more about how they buy things. Maybe you sell products that the government only spends 5, 6, 8,000 at a time. Well, that doesn't require an actual solicitation. They can just purchase directly from you using a credit card. That's a whole nother webinar, and I'm glad I mentioned it, but there are multiple ways the government buys what they buy. And micro purchases is just one of them. But if you do your research, you start learning all this. And so you once you really get going, you'll be able to have a more a greater success at winning contracts sooner than later. So that's my quick summary. This is the entire team. So we're all have years of experience, right? We have all years of experience either being a contracting officer in whether it's a federal or state agency, or we've been managers within a government, or we come from the entrepreneurial side and we've won contracts and we've done business with primes and we have that background, so then we share with you in our one-on-one sessions. All right, and I'll let Amanda talk about our upcoming events.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Thomas. That was a very in-depth, very detailed presentation, which is amazing because that's really the details that our audience wants. We want the nitty-gritty, we want the meat and potatoes of what government contracting is. And thank you so much for being here to present it.
No, my pleasure.
And then before everybody heads out, thank you again for staying a little bit late with us. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be joined by the California Department of General Services Office of Small Business for a doing business with the state of California on January 18th. And as of now, that is the one we have registration open for, but we have a ton of other ones that are planned, from mentor protege programs to government-led innovation programs to our Women in Construction Week in March. So do keep an eye out for our events. And if you sign up as a client, maybe you want to fill some time this holiday season with some trainings, we actually offer Govology webinars at absolutely no cost to our clients. And these are very similar in the way that we do our webinars, and we use them to kind of cover any lacking expertise that we have, any break times that we may need in the year from our webinars. So if you are an APEX Accelerator client, you can still get all of this training and all of this information through Govology. And with that, I will say one final thank you to everybody who has joined us this morning and to everybody who was able to stay a little bit late. I want to make you aware you'll be redirected to our feedback survey once you exit this webinar. And this is just us getting a feel for how much you enjoyed or maybe didn't enjoy this webinar. We love to hear both sides because we use it to improve our trainings and what we present to you and the way we present it to you. And the only way we can improve is by you letting us know how. So if you have a moment, please do complete that feedback survey. And again, thank you to everybody who joined us. I hope you have a great evening and a fantastic holiday season.
Same here. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.